warm welcome from my side to all of you. Thanks for being here and thanks for joining us tonight. I might say a few words about our firm and about myself. My name is Joachim Buchau, or I'm simply say Joe Buchau, because in the US most of the people like to call me Joe, so you are heartily invited to do the same. I've been with Optegra now for 5 years. Before I was partner at BDO for 9 years, and before this I started my professional career with Ernst & Young in the very early days, in the late 80s, where they still were called Ernst & Winnie. You might not even remember his name, but it was a long time ago. Yeah, we are located, as you can see, in Cologne and Munich. So we have the middle and south of Germany. We have 17 partners on board, and we even have 2 US CPAs in Germany. So we are approximately 50 people are in Cologne, 50 people in Munich, but the international work is primarily done from Cologne. Maybe just very briefly our service portfolio. We have quite a broad range of services. Tax consulting, management consulting. We focus a little bit on the tax structuring, national, international, management consulting. We also do expat taxation. You find a lot of papers around here on the tables. We have a new flyer on this also distributed, so if you might want to take a look in this, you will have a little bit more additional information. We also do transaction services, but first contact for us in Germany, or maybe also for the other colleagues in Europe, is the first contact is often payroll services, so we are also a payroll provider in Germany. This is when companies try to test the market and send out their first sales reps. This is where we come into place and say we can do the services and put those people on payroll. We're not alone in the world, we have some partners. So this is why we are not sitting only in Germany. We have the NIS group, the NIS Global, and the SES group. NIS is more Europe-based, but it's also expanded a little bit to Asia and Middle East. And the SES Global part is primarily coming through Japan and is doing Asia from there. Regarding NIS Global, I would like to say a few words. This is a network. I mean, all of you know these hundreds of networks out there. It was 11 years ago when we thought we have also to do something about a network. And we, in those days, said we didn't want to enter into an existing network, paying a fee and receiving a directory. And what we didn't really know and how would be the quality or what would be the real benefit from entering in such an anonymous, let's say for us, from our perspective, network. So we decided to really enter and found our own network. We looked for people like us with a good history, like Big Four background or something like this. And we found very quickly some key countries. We found UK, Spain, Italy, France, and Germany. That was the first key countries we found in those days. And this has developed since then. Because so today we have around about 30 countries worldwide, and this is quite a nice figure, so we can really cover the major cities in Europe for our clients. Yeah, we have also just a few weeks ago we have made a next step. We have really found our first US office here, a representation office with one person on the ground, because we thought it might quite be nice to have to work in the same time zone, to be out here, to be present, and to be able to speak to people, like to do really networking, not only via email. And you know, the communication to Germany is sometimes very hard when you have these 9 hours and this tiny little time slot where you can really ring the phone, and to do everything by email is not that exciting at all, I think. So yeah, we have. I'm very proud that I've can introduce to you now the lady who's on the ground here in San Francisco for our NIS Global office. It's Doreen Davis-Owen. Doreen, I would be very happy if you could maybe say a few words.
Thank you. Yes, for those of you I have not met, my name is Doreen Davis-Owen. I am with NIS, or Norton's NIS Global, and we're delighted that we opened an office here several months ago, and it's located at Mission and Spear in San Francisco. So again, delighted to be part of the group. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Doreen. Yeah, I think I'm also not alone speaking tonight. There is also a very nice colleague of mine, Beate, and she wants to say something, lead us a little bit through what we have to expect for tonight, the topics. Beate?
Yeah, thank you. So hello everybody, my name is Beate Fenneberger, and I'm the managing director of our consulting company, Optegra Consulting Company. And I stay with Optegra for 12 years now, and I would like to give you at first a little brief overview of our agenda tonight. We will look at first at the different countries where could the European market entry start, and furthermore we will have a look at different sales channels and sales strategy, the pros and cons, and in addition we will provide you with some information regarding product flow and logistic details, and also we will look detailed at different organization forms in Europe and what consequences they might have. And finally, we would like to give you a brief overview of our services and how we can support your market entry in Europe. So all in all, we would like to shed some light into the most important decisions when entering into the European market. So our initial situation is that we look at a company which produces a product or a software, and the business is established in the US, or in case of medtech companies, the CE mark is received, the FDA permission process lasts on, but the decision was made to go into the European market. And we as Optegra have many years of experience in supporting companies coming to Europe, and our service portfolio is a kind of one-stop shop, and it's very specialized on the market entry support, and we work with professional network partners in more than 30 countries. Now I would like to hand over again to Joe.
Thank you, Beate. Then we coming to the first session, which is called Where to Go First. So when you're trying to go into a new market, you have to know where do I want to go. So what might be your considerations when you have to take this decision? Europe is a big thing, you know. It's compared to US, of course, it's small, but there are so many countries and so many languages, so many micro markets that you might want to think where to go first. UK, language and logistics might be one key decision factor when thinking about where to go. Language, of course, UK is the first thing you will think of. They are talking nearly the same language, I think, and yeah, they have another advantage. They have a really fast and easy going with the foundation of a UK Limited. That's also one thing that can be considered. And what we also often in fact see, that most of the US startups, they really go to the UK at first. Might not be so much market driven, but it is really the language and some easy compliance thing when really starting your business. Come later on, I will talk about a little bit of a foundation of a GmbH in Germany, which is much more complicated. Logistics might also be interesting, and if you think about logistics in Germany, when you have, for example, to ship products, you can't come around thinking about harbors. And here we have Netherlands and Belgium as one important locations. When you think of Rotterdam, for example, in the Netherlands, this is the #1 harbor in the European market, and it's the third biggest harbor in the world. Another harbor, for example, is Antwerp. The city is in Belgium, and it's the third biggest harbor. So it's not why I'm focusing so much on the harbor. The reason is it's not only the harbor, but it's also the logistic around the harbor. You find a lot of very professional logistic firms, a very good infrastructure. You have railway streets. This is everywhere around. Is very good located. But Germany is also not too far away from it, and therefore I put also Germany on the board. We have also harbors. We have like Hamburg, and what is developing more and more is an inner harbor, a quite important inner harbor that is becoming more and more important. Is Duisburg. You might never heard of that town, Duisburg. It's in North Rhine-Westphalia, so it's close to Cologne, where we are located, and it has also access to the sea via the river, and it has become more and more important. And also there, we found a very good infrastructure for logistics. So this might be one thing, logistic and language, but another thing is, of course, the market. It might be the most important thing at all. And I brought some figure for us tonight, which might be quite interesting. It's from Intrastat, so it should be really, the figures should be reliable there. It shows one sector. It shows healthcare. It's just an example. Healthcare, I've chosen healthcare because it has become for us as a firm very important in the past years, as we have landed many startups from the Silicon Valley, helping them landing in Germany and in Europe, as long as their FDA mark has not yet been completed. They're trying to sell all the way through Europe via the CE mark. And that's the example here is healthcare, for example. When you see the countries in the EU, we have the expenditures of 30% only in Germany. So Germany is, in fact, a very important market for this sector. So this is quite nice. So given it on the whole, our experience is really that we have seen a lot of firms coming very quickly after they maybe have landed in the UK, coming very quickly to Germany, and the residual countries are coming much more later. So first usually is the UK, then comes Germany and the German-speaking countries, and then it's a little bit slower going to Italy, rolling out to France and Spain and the rest. So now we are again with Beate, sales strategy. I'd like to hand over.
Thank you. To generate and increase sales is one of the most important issues when companies decide to enter the European market, and they have to think about shall I go direct or shall I choose a distributor, and what are the most important pros and cons. So if you start your sales activities with a European distributor, normally when you work with a very professional and specialized distributor, you get a very fast market entry and penetration, and there are the low costs and low capacities for infrastructure and administration needed. But of course there are a lot of cons. So you will lose a part of your margin, of course, and no own customer base is developed, as your brand and your company name are communicated only indirectly in the European market. And it's quite hard to control, because the distributor normally does not only concentrate only on your company and your product. So there's a certain risk that the distributor maybe does not make sufficient efforts to make your product successful. And furthermore, you have rather little influence on marketing and prices. And finally, in the end, there might be some legal aspects. For example, when you terminate the distribution contract, there might be termination compensation payments. The distributors are quite strong, have a quite strong right, especially in Germany. So you could go direct. There are also pros and cons, and of course your customer relationship is then developed, and your company's name and brand are communicated directly in the market, and the customer base is then owned by the US company. And sales can be increased by permanent and sole concentration on the customer communication. And of course, there are certain cons. It's quite time and cost consuming. You have to search for salespeople or commercial agents, and you need an infrastructure. You have to install European stock, and it has to be managed. And depending on your legal structure, there might be also other administration which is required. And finally, there's a certain care factor. You have to take care of your employees then, of course, or commercial agents. So that are the pros and cons. So Joe will go on, will continue with product flow and logistic details.
After you hired your sales team and followed the advice of Beate regarding your things, then you might want to think about, how do I get the product on the way? So mostly, of course, if you have bigger volume products, like not bulk products, but some special products. Coming back to my medical device, for example, you usually ship it by sea, parcel service by air. You might know, have some experience. I don't know. For example, it takes can take if you use FedEx or another DHL parcel service. It takes can take 2 days to get things down to Europe, any place you wear. If you have low priority, it takes 5 days. It's a little bit cheaper then. By sea, it might take 3 to 4 weeks, even more in some instances. So you might want to consider regarding the time you have to invest and the stock you have to put in place, these timing aspects. I'm coming again to these locations. When you remember the previous charts with the German-speaking countries and the other EU countries, I have listed this also again because what you also have to consider when you go into these markets, which product, what salespeople do I need outside? Do I have a complex product which needs a lot of explanation? Then you have to be close to the customer. You need a sales force out in nearly every country. But you could also think about having one distribution center which serves all the other locations. And then you're automatically either in the Netherlands-Belgium area or in the German-speaking countries in the first instance. So it might make sense to have one center and shipping all the products into Europe from that center. You need also to watch your stock or to keep a stock. One interesting thing I will tell later on, you have various stock levels to consider, to control. One is the parent company stock, of course, one is a local subsidiary, but there are some other stocks below this. For example, the sales personnel stock might cause problems, and I'm quickly tell you why. You have the salespeople need to be stocked at first instance, so they might have their trunk stock, they might have their garage where they have products, even in the cellar or wherever they have stock. It needs to be controlled, and this is very important also for VAT purposes. You know, VAT is a special story in the European market and also in Germany, and it requires not only control, but it requires also documentation. So be careful when you have stocks outside or consignment stock at a customer, trunk stock with your sales reps. It's always important to know to have a system in place with which you can prove where your stocks have been gone. Because I might tell you a small story now. What happened to one of our clients? It was a MedTech client, and They were out in European market for 2 years already, but have not yet recorded substantial sales. So what they did is, in the beginning, to get the market used to their product, they gave away products for free. So and this is quite a dangerous thing, because what happened to them is they gave products for free in these 2 years for 700,000 euros product price, product value, and they couldn't document to whom it was actually shipped. So the sales reps took the products, went out to the clinics, to the hospitals, and gave it away to the doctors just to have their network growing, to make the people happy, to get them used to the product, to show the product around. So if it's what the fiscal authorities then said is, as long as you can't prove where you shipped your product, we say you sold it. If you can't prove the opposite way, we put VAT on this thing. And they really ended up in putting complete 19% VAT on the 700,000 euros, so they had to pay, let's say, a fine of 130,000, which really hurt. So and that's what I wanted to tell you, that small story. So control of stocks and documentation is a very, very important thing. Yeah, next thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is organization. So how to organize your activities in Europe when you are out there. In which way it can be organized legally, or in a way that there are no direct legal and statutory consequences. So I think you have heard these terms, I would guess, before: representation office, branch, and subsidiary. These are terms that are usually used throughout Europe also, but, and I say but, with other contents. So you need to take care, because there are these expressions and the conditions that go with: am I a rep office only? Have I founded a legal subsidiary? Well, that's probably clear. So there you have formal registration processes in place where you have your limited or your GmbH out there. But as long as you are in the left or in the middle stage, might not be quite clear: am I still only a rep office? Do I have a pure presence, or am I already a branch? And this makes a big difference, because a branch has certain downsides, and I come to this in detail a little bit later. But at the moment, there are several criteria to distinguish between rep office and branch. But these criteria are not, there is not like a legal definition. So you can't say, if I have a fixed number of sales reps out there, maybe I have 2, 3, 5, 6, if I have more than 5, I'm already a branch. Or if no one has signing power, I will never have a branch, only a rep office. You can't say this clearly, and therefore it's very, very important to look at where am I now, to have a good consultant on ground who can really guide you through this jungle, because the tax authorities, they always look at the complete picture. So how is the complete picture looking? Is it really more an organic, self-working? Is it like a self-working organic company, or are there really only some people who live in the hotel and making some activities that is not really the entire activity of the company, like sales support, for example, or some pre-sales activities? So they look at it in a rather detailed way. So the criteria I have listed, you can also look up in this. We have taken a lot of paper with us. This is a rather small, tiny little thing. It's doing business in Germany, the white and yellow thing. And in the middle you find again all this criteria. Glasses. Where is it? Yeah, the folder. All this criteria again with a branch office, a subsidiary company, and rep office. So I wouldn't like to bore you with all those details right now. I just want to put some attention on some specific issues that might be important. Direct ownership. So this, if you look at the last line, this is also quite an important aspect. What activity do the people out there do? Do they really make contracts with your customer? Do they really exercise the core business of the company, or do they only do secondary activities and other things? This is, beside others, one of the more important aspects here tax authorities might look at. Signing power is, okay, also belonging to this. Do you have people out there who really can sign the contract, or is it all done via the head office? The product liability might also be quite interesting for, I mean, if there is any risk there, if there is a risk exposure or not, you would decide, but if there is one, you might want to cut it out via the legal entity, because if the legal entity is out there selling the products, you might be able to have the liability only on the local subsidiary side and not getting everything through through to the US. 6.4. Yeah, here's also another nice story regarding entering in the commercial register. You know, there are branches out there that are not registered, and there are branches out that are registered. The non-registered are those one who might think they are still a rep office, but in fact they are already a branch. And one thing here is that the directors, if you have a branch out there, the directors have to be entered in the commercial register. And the directors, in a branch case where you have not a legal entity, it's only a part of the, say, US firm. And then you have to consider that, for example, all the board members in the US have to be entered in the branch commercial local register. And this is, you can think this is a nightmare. If you have like 6, 5, 7, 8, 9 board members, try to get all signatures and circularized around. This is really a bit, can become a big task. So this is again regarding signing. Bookkeeping is, might also be quite important, although it's a thing most of the people wouldn't like to do so much, but it has to be done. Of course, the rep office has generally no bookkeeping obligations. If you have people out there employed by the parent company or employed by a higher subsidiary, you know, the classical structure we see, as I've already thought, is that said is that we have the US parent company, you might have a tax entity below it, and then you have the UK entity, and as a limited, because I said it's rather easy and fast going to find this limited, and the rest and the sales reps can all be employed by the UK limited. So you have only limited registration obligations for the payroll, for the employer locally in Germany, the UK employer in Germany, the UK employer in France, the UK employer in Spain, and so on. The reason why I